may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so y'all have destroyed the past two videos where I said that every time we hit 250 likes on a video in the first day it's uploaded, we'll go through and we'll update that next video with some timestamps. Now, the reason for this is simply whenever we have timestamps on a video, the average watch time goes down. It hurts us in the algorithm. But with how much y'all are smashing the like button, it really doesn't matter if we get hurt in the algorithm because of timestamps, because it's going to counter out regardless. So we passed that 250 mark within the first 3 hours of yesterday's video. So yeah, this one will have timestamps. Thank you everybody for showing that kind of support. Even though this video is not going to see that same type of support, because in this video, we are going to be going through and we are going to be talking about the worst case scenario with a lot of running backs that are going to be going high in drafts in 2021. Now, keep in mind, guys, I am not coming on here to say avoid these players at all costs. I'm coming on here to say that fantasy football is played through a range of outcomes. You have to look at a player that you're about to draft, a player that you're about to trade for, and go, what is best case scenario? What is worst case scenario? What is likely going to happen in between that? So with these guys, we are going to be focusing in on the worst case scenario, players that I think have a little bit of a lower floor than other guys going in that same range. Possibly you look to avoid them if you think that it's likely that they hit their floor. But like I said, just because a player has a low floor doesn't necessarily make them an avoid player per se in fantasy, because we know usually what you want to chase is ceiling. But that's it. I will say, if you have not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Fix your life. And even if you are subscribed, make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our next premiere. We premiere every single one of these videos. And that's it. Let's bring up Aaron Jones for our first running back. And I know a lot of people are going to hate this because Aaron Jones has been great in fantasy over the past few years. And I am on record as quote unquote an Aaron Jones hater, where last offseason I was saying, you know what, this backfield with both Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon looks like it may be getting a little crowded. I would want to avoid Aaron Jones, and we were wrong. I mean, we have to come out here and say this. Aaron Rodgers actually stepped up his game to a point where we had not seen Green Bay be that efficient over the past 5 years. So even with Jamal Williams having the type of volume that you would expect, it didn't matter with Aaron Jones because the overall offensive efficiency was so high that the starting running back with a ton of talent in Aaron Jones, I mean, he was so efficient with his touches. He had an incredible touchdown rate if you're looking at a per touch basis that Aaron Jones smashed in fantasy. But now we're looking at the scenario and we're going, okay, even with Jamal Williams gone, I think that there is some red flags that we can be looking at with this offense. The first thing is, usually if you're looking at a touchdown rate with what you had with Green Bay last year, I mean, that is rarely ever sustainable. Rarely ever do you see an offense have that elite touchdown rate and do not regress the following season. I mean, we saw this with Lamar Jackson's MVP year, then following it up with 2020, where he was still an impressive quarterback and he was still a very good offense. It's just how these numbers work. It's just how the game is played. Very rarely are you ever going to have a quarterback, or very rarely are you ever going to have an offense be at just an extreme outlier in terms of their touchdown rate, whether that is good or bad. So the first red flag is the fact that you're probably going to see the touchdown rate regress for the Green Bay Packers in 2021. And another red flag we can point to is the entire Aaron Rodgers situation. Now, I know that even if you do have Jordan Love coming in to be the Green Bay Packers starting quarterback, I mean, probably Aaron Jones is still going to be getting as many dump-off passes. But the problem is just the overall production of the offense is going to take such a hit that it's going to be hard to get behind whatever starting running back there is going to be elite. Because if you have that dip in offensive efficiency, you're going to have less sustained drives, you're going to have less touches to go around overall, and more importantly, you're going to have less red zone touches that Aaron Jones may be able to see in 2021. Now, the last thing I want to focus in on is the fact that AJ Dillon was a second-round draft pick last year. Last year, AJ Dillon was drafted in the same round of Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift. AJ Dillon did get the significant team investment to the point where you have to say, do they have a role in mind? Are they going to be making this a running back by committee, just like we saw with Jamal Williams and just like we saw with Aaron Jones in 2020? Yet this time it's going to be A.J. Dillon instead of Jamal Williams. And if that's the case, I think you have to be a little bit worried about Aaron Jones and his usage at the goal line. Because if you look at A.J. Dillon, it looks like on paper, A.J. Dillon would be a much better short goal running back compared to Aaron Jones. Just because, I mean, we know that A.J. Dillon is a monstrous human. And I'm not saying that he is a better running back than Aaron Jones. But I'm saying that it is possible that he ends up getting some usage at the goal line. Okay, so now let's bring up a rookie running back here. Let's talk about Javonte Williams, a guy that is a big-time riser after the NFL draft, after going within the top 40 overall picks. But the problem here with Javonte Williams is a couple things. One, if you dive into the Melvin Gordon contract, it's actually nearly impossible for this team to decide to let go of Melvin Gordon. Now, I've been on record saying that Melvin Gordon has been a very bad running back for a very long time now. If you look at his efficiency levels, I mean, Melvin Gordon has been one of the worst starting running backs in the entire NFL over the past 2 years. But given the fact that, I mean, his contract is mainly guaranteed this season, it wouldn't make too much sense for this team to actually go out there and make a move in deciding to cut Melvin Gordon. And with that being the scenario, I mean, if you do have Gordon under contract and Javonte Williams being extremely young, I think to start the year, this is a much more of a committee than most people want to expect. Now, to throw along with this, the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is currently projected as the starting quarterback in Denver, I mean, I think that you just have to be a little bit hesitant with any player that you're going to be drafting from this Denver Broncos offense, and that you should not be expecting this offense to be near a league average, or even, I don't even want to say below average. I think they're going to be horrible in offensive efficiency, because we know the quarterback position is by far and away the most important position on the field. Now, yes, they do have elite weapons. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler. If you did have a quarterback, just say like Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers going to Denver, I think there you have to give Javonte Williams a massive bump up in your overall expectations. But I think we can safely say, given the fact that this may start the year as a committee and the fact that you don't want a committee running back on a bad offense, that Javonte Williams does have a low floor. Okay, so now let's get to a running back that was a massive winner of the NFL draft. And I like this running back, but like I said, I mean, everything's through a range of outcomes, and we can acknowledge the fact that the floor here is going to be a little bit lower than some other guys. It's going to be Myles Gaskin. And here with Myles Gaskin, yes, like I have said so many times before, I mean, he was an impressive running back in 2020. In 2020, he had come out and he had shown that he can be a 3-down guy and he can be efficient with his touches. Now, the problem is with Myles Gaskin, we can't guarantee that he is going to have the job. And I know that is kind of gross to say, and I know that he definitely projects to be the starting running back on this roster week 1. But at the end of the day, we see all the time that these day 3 running backs, these guys that don't have the team investment, if they get hurt, if you see them struggle to start the year, that team is going to be a lot more willing to just move over to the next running back. They're going to be more willing to change it to a committee than you would with a guy that just say got the second round NFL draft capital. Just say the guy that has the pedigree coming in. I mean, we saw this yet again in the NFL draft this past year, where these guys with no pedigree are not getting any respect. I mean, you saw this with James Robinson getting replaced with the first round running back in Travis Etienne, even though James Robinson is an extremely talented running back on his own right. So with Myles Gaskin, we're looking at him going, yes, he projects to be the week 1 starter for Miami, but this is also a team that decided to pay Malcolm Brown $1.75 million. And if you're looking across the league, $1.75 million for a running back is not any money to overlook, especially in Florida, no state income tax. But nonetheless, I mean, you had running backs like James Conner getting less money than this. So I think it's important to see they brought in Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown did take touches away from both Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson last year. So maybe Malcolm Brown, Salvon Ahmed take some usage away from Myles Gaskin. And if Gaskin does underperform, which we are not expecting him to, I think then you could see it kind of transition to a full-blown running back by committee. Okay, so let's go over to what I expect to be a full-blown running back by committee right away in Las Vegas with Josh Jacobs. Now, talk about a backup running back coming in and getting a nice contract. Obviously, Kenyon Drake, I mean, I was surprised that any team was willing to pay Kenyon Drake that amount of money. Nonetheless, a team that just spent a first-round pick on a starting running back in 2019. Yet, we've seen time and time again that the Raiders, they do not want to use Josh Jacobs as a workhorse running back. They do not want to use Josh Jacobs on all 3 downs. Despite whatever John Gruden said going into 2020, it's clear that Josh Jacobs is never going to have the passing down role on the Las Vegas Raiders that we once thought. And because that pass catching role is not there, if he is not seeing every single touch at the goal line, if he is not seeing every single touch between the tackles, it's almost impossible to project Josh Jacobs to be a running back 1 in fantasy, especially considering that this is an offense that has lost pieces of their offensive line this offseason. And I know they bring in Alex Leatherwood. I know that they do invest into the O-line in the NFL draft, but still, if we're talking 2021, where you don't necessarily expect those rookie offensive linemen to make a massive impact right away, and you also have Kenyon Drake coming in, Kenyon Drake most likely going to be taking the receiving down usage away from Josh Jacobs. I mean, there's a scenario where Josh Jacobs is a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3. I mean, it's going to be a very bad offense, and Josh Jacobs is going to be in a committee. It's something that I really just want to stay away from. Okay, so now let's go to what's probably going to give us the most hate out of anybody on this list. Let's go over to Ezekiel Elliott. And I know Zeke has been seen as a player that has one of the highest floors in fantasy football based on the amount of touches that he is going to get every single season. And yes, Ezekiel Elliott saw a massive drop-off in efficiency this past year. I mean, he posted both his lowest yards per carry and his yards per reception of his entire career. And keep in mind, this was his first season playing without Dak Prescott. He only had Dak Prescott for the first month of the year. Beyond that, he had one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire NFL, whether that was Andy Dalton, whether that was whoever. But nonetheless, I mean, if you're looking at another running back in this backfield in Tony Pollard actually came in and was more efficient per touch than Ezekiel Elliott, with Tony Pollard posting a 4.3 yards per carry and a 6.9 yards per reception. Now, something I want to focus in on, and I sent a tweet out about this yesterday, is the fact that Ezekiel Elliott has had a massive workload through his NFL career. I mean, if you're looking at the amount of touches that he has had in his NFL career, he is up there at 1,654 touches. Now, if you add on his college touches, which were 650, this is good for over 2,300 touches in college and the NFL. Now, let's not focus too much in on college because, yes, he was at a big-time program in Ohio State, but still, I mean, you're not going up against monstrous humans every single down, even in Division I football. But what I want to focus in on is the fact that with Ezekiel Elliott's 1,654 touches at the NFL level, this puts him in a range where you really have no other running backs in the entire NFL with this amount of touches. I mean, the only active running back still under contract for 2021 that has more than 1,600 career touches in the NFL is Mark Ingram. And are you that excited about Mark Ingram, or have we already seen the fall off? So what I think you have to be a little bit worried about with Ezekiel Elliott is how many touches can he get? How much does the workload have to get to before we just see a cliff come where the efficiency completely drops off? And I know with the small drop in efficiency that we had from 2020, you can excuse it with the situation. But I mean, we have not seen a running back have this many touches in the NFL and then continue to be successful for a very long time. Okay, so now our last running back we are going to be bringing up is someone that I can't decide if we are actually going to be drafting or avoiding in 2021, but this is going to be Myles Sanders. And here with Sanders, there are so many things that could go wrong. A, we could see the Jalen Hurts experiment fail in Philadelphia, and this offense, just like 2020, be one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL, which we know if you're playing in one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL at the running back position, it's going to be very hard to be productive unless your name is James Robinson. And throw on the fact that we've actually seen Philadelphia go out and invest into some backup running backs so far in 2021. They bring in both Kerryon Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell. So with both of these running backs coming in, with the fact that Myles Sanders was very disappointing in 2020, with the fact that you really shouldn't be expecting Jalen Hurts to dump the ball off at all this upcoming season. We talk about this all the time, where yes, those rushing quarterbacks, they can help the running backs in the backfield by opening up running lanes, by making sure the linebackers aren't crashing on the running backs whenever they go to hand it off. So you should expect a decently high yards per carry for Miles Sanders. But at the same time, those rushing quarterbacks, they're not going to be dumping the ball off as much. I mean, the receptions should not be there for Miles Sanders as they were when Carson Wentz was under center. Because say Jalen Hurts goes through his progressions, his first two guys aren't there, then you could end up seeing Jalen Hurts tucking it down and running rather than just dumping it off to Miles Sanders coming out of the backfield. So because the lack of receptions will be there, and the fact that this offense does have a very low floor, and the fact that they bring in some running back competition, I think it's safe to say that Miles Sanders does have a low floor. Now, if Jalen Hurts pans out, if Jalen Hurts brings this offense to being, just say, the Arizona Cardinals level with Kyler Murray, then you could look at Miles Sanders and go, hey, he can be a top 6 running back in fantasy. So both things can be possible. A player can have a ceiling as a running back 1 and a floor as a guy that you can't even start. And Miles Sanders, I think, is one of those guys. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for everyone supporting the show on Patreon. And Dominic, Jim, Carl, Jesse, Tyler, Eric, Colby, Cameron, Mike, and Marcus, thank you guys.